Okay, so today we are going to go through how we can do revenue recognition for our ad-based company. We'll go through how we can collect events that can be classified as revenue, how we process that, how we move to the invoicing stage, and finally how we do the accounting and revenue recognition. So yeah, stay tuned. What you want to do is real-time event logging. So for our users, we want to be able to capture and store all ad impressions and actions as they occur. Of course, the problem with that is that you're going to end up with a lot of data. It's going probably to be in hundreds of GBs, if not GBs, on a daily basis. However, we know that most of that information is not going to be important, and you're not going to need to compact it. So when I say compact it, I mean move it to be some kind of dimensional data. So we usually only care about data if we can either align it to a customer or an event or any other dimensions that are deemed important. So for example, maybe our customers want us to, they really care maybe about the country that it's going to, or they maybe care about the time of day or the campaign, then you need to be able to put that data in that format. From a tooling perspective, what we'll be using here is Kafka. And we'll be using Kafka basically to get events that are coming in from our users. Remember I said that there are a lot, so that means we needed a tool that has high throughput and data ingestion with really low latency. So this is really good for that. Of course, once this information gets to us, we expect it to be very similar, and this is not transactional. Primarily, we're going to be using it for analysis and billing, which means it really fits better with what you'd expect from an analysis type of DB. That's why from a data storage perspective, I think about it as Cassandra. The next thing is that it makes sense to compact that information, and here what I mean is let's actually remove all the extra details that we don't need and only keep what we need. So we care about the impressions, we care about the customers, and so on and so forth, and other dimensions we had discussed. So that's what you want to use. So now, once you have gotten to the point in time where you have been able to aggregate the information, remember, as we mentioned, you want to put it inside and think about it using the various dimensions that you have, and then thinking about it as more or less cube data. So now you definitely have multiple dimensions depending on what you are interested in. For this diagram, I've only considered the customer time and maybe the sum of the impressions. Now, once you have this, you have to store this information out purposes of invoice generation. Now, the easiest way for us to go about this is maybe starting with the customer. Maybe the customer can have multiple invoices. Each of these invoices can have multiple items, and so on and so forth. So what this means is that you find yourself in a situation where you have a perfect candidate for an SQL type DB. So this might be something like Postgres, and the idea is that you'd store this aggregated data there. You'd have a unique invoice ID for each of these aggregated records, and also you'll be able to track the life cycle of each invoice now based on this. This is of course important because of how billing works, and ensuring consistency and integrity at this point in time is the most important part. Going on to the next part, you can now basically dispatch out the invoices. That means generating PDF, maybe PDF or Excel, and at this point in time you can do things like apply customer specific billing rules, discounts, and maybe even tax calculations, right? So anything specific to them. You might also possibly work through some kind of direct integration with the customer if you already have that. You would expect that probably this is the place that is going to change quite a bit, especially if you get large customers and they need some kind of specific rules for them, and at this point in time I'd probably just use something like Python that I could more or less very easily work with. And we have now gotten to the last part where we actually need to do the accounting for it. So once the invoicing has been done and has been sent, then we need to ensure that we are generating the right account entries for every invoice and that they're actually getting to the general ledger. So here the language changes a bit, and for example we start talking about things like account receivables, which then we need to wait for something like customer payments, which are going to happen outside of the billing cycle. So here in terms of tooling, we need to use an ERP tool specifically to run the GL. So the accounting engine itself just processes it and sends it there based on predefined rules. So in terms of the rules themselves, you can usually write them using something like, maybe you can use Python or some other kind of rule engine that makes more sense for you. The GL itself, it's just better to use a standard ERP system, maybe something from SAP, Oracle, or even ERP Next if you prefer something that is open source. So when you get to the ERP itself, there are certain things that come into play. For example, you just cannot delete anything from the GL. Instead, you have to do things like run a compensating transaction. Performance is always a problem because the GLs are typically not built for performance. Instead, they are built for auditability, compliance, and some level reporting, and even that wouldn't necessarily be a strong suit. So really their biggest work is to provide a unified platform for managing financial data across the organization. So that's what they do very well, and they're usually very specialized. So that's it, folks. Let me know what you think. Would you have designed this differently, or would you have done it in the same way? Let me know in the comments.